Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. I want to welcome you all to the show today. An exciting day of sports. We have some college football playoff games going on. We had the Rose Bowl. We had Boise State and Penn State last night. The sports world is blowing up. Mountain West Hoops really feels like it's kicked into gear in earnest now. We have the Runnin Rebels that are 2-0 in conference play. A Mountain West as a conference that is just really kind of wild right now. But just crazy things going on in sports. We've got great football news with the return of some key players and some coaches, and life's just good. It's New Year's Day, so I hope that you all have had a wonderful New Year's Day. I hope you spent lots of time with your family. Let's dive into the Runnin Rebels. I want to open with them. As UNLV fans, we have a long history with the Air Force Falcons. We've been in their conference for a long time. The Runnin Rebels have gone to Clune Arena, which is the arena that the Air Force plays in, and lost many games. We saw the opening of conference play against Fresno State at home, where the Runnin Rebels walked away with an 87-77 victory. Fresno figures to kind of be a team that can't really stop anybody, but can explode can explode with some serious offense. We saw them go and score 89 points on New Mexico the other night. And so Fresno is a team that they certainly can shoot, they certainly can score, but they're not going to stop anybody. So that was the Runnin Rebels' first matchup in conference play. The second matchup is a game that's generally pretty tricky for the Rebels. It is at Air Force, a team that we have lost 3 out of 4 on the road to. Air Force was a team that was really struggling coming into the game. They were the lowest ranked team in KenPom, according to KenPom in the Mountain West. The Runnin Rebels came out a little slow. They were down at the first media timeout at the 16-minute mark, but really went on a few key runs, a 10-0 run, a 14-3 run, and kind of broke the game open pretty early in about 10 minutes into the second half. About 10 minutes into the first half, really kind of broke the game open. Let's go over some stats here for that game and talk about a little bit about what happened and what we can take away from it and where the Runnin Rebels can go when they have their last tune-up game kind of in this early conference slate against a tricky San Jose State team coming to the Thomas and Mack on Saturday. So let's dive into the KenPom numbers here. Let's share this screen. Make sure that that's popped up and populated. Going into the stats, DJ Thomas, he had 21 points. The last couple of games for DJ have been really solid. His shooting still has been a little rough. He was only 3 of 7 from 2 and 1 of 2 from 3 in this game. I'd like to see DJ shoot a little bit more. And as you can see, his offensive rating because of that lack of efficiency was pretty bad actually. Jalen Hill had a pretty solid game. A couple of possessions where he had a turnover, where he kind of ISO attacked at the rim. Didn't love a few things that I saw from Jalen Hill, but he seems to have, and the coaches seem to have kind of reeled in his offensive game. He's playing with a lot more control, with a lot more purpose. And we're getting less of those Jalen Hill post up, less of those kind of Jalen Hill drive to the rims that he ends up running a post up out of. It's gone a lot better for Jalen Hill. We also saw him. He got 8 defensive rebounds in the game, which really solid. He finished the game with 9 rebounds. He was the Rebels' leading rebounder, a squad that has really struggled on the boards. And it's nice to see Jalen Hill kind of taking charge and getting those, especially those defensive rebounds, as the Rebels have been so vulnerable to offensive rebounds. Julian Rishwing, KenPom had him as the MVP of this game. He, in 26 minutes, had 22 points. He was 4 of 7 from 3, so scorching the nets. 3 defensive rebounds of his own and a couple turnovers, but Rishwing is quickly becoming our most dependable offensive single shot is just a Rishwing 3-point attempt. Jaden Henley has really impressed me as of late. Again, KenPom didn't like his offensive performance as much, only giving him a 99, maybe because of some level of efficiency or maybe the 2 missed free throws. But Jaden Henley has, I was pretty skeptical of the Jaden Henley signing. especially early on in the season and in the offseason. But Jaden Henley's been a nice surprise to me as an individual fan. Really good player. I think his defense has helped. His size has helped. A guy that we really needed in a lot of those losses that we had. So couldn't be happier with how Jaden Henley's been playing. I thought Bear Cherry had a bit of a bounce back performance. Early, we saw him dribbling a bit too much, too many kind of pump fake style moves in the paint instead of just going up with the ball and putting himself in really awkward positions. Still had a couple of those possessions early, but Bear Cherry, finishes the game 5 of 5 from the field, 3 of 5 from the free throw line. I would really like to see him get more offensive and defensive rebounds. He only had 2 rebounds total. Bear's strength has not been on the boards this year. And so it's kind of pivotal that we get him rebounding a little bit better. Brooklyn Hicks continues to be like probably my favorite player on the team. He is just lightning in a bottle up and down the court. Really gets the game going with good pace. Not a great statistical game from him, finishing 1 of 2 from 2. He did make his only 3-pointer that he took, missed a couple of free throws, but he did get 4 rebounds and a couple of steals. And so I really like the pace that Brooklyn Hicks brings to the team. I feel like Coach Kruger often will sit Brooklyn Hicks, mostly just because he feels like he plays a little out of control, which Brooklyn Hicks completely does sometimes. But Brooklyn has had a pretty solid sophomore season. I'd like to see him take that next step here in conference play. To me, the best lineup that this team has is a lineup that has DJ, that has Brooklyn Hicks, that has Julian Rishwain, Jaden Henley, and then probably Bear Cherry or Pop. Either one of those guys is pretty solid. I like that kind of all speed, all offense. I'd be okay even with going 4 guards and bringing in Jalen Bedford and having Julian Rishwain play the power forward. I think that, I'm sure that the coaches would not love that because of the rebounding and the size issues that would present for the team. But I just think that speed, passing, shooting, that's the way that this team is going to have success. We're not a bruising power team like we thought we were going to be coming into the season. A lot of that's because Rob Whaley's out, and that's not anybody's fault. But I think they have to embrace speed and shooting, and I feel like and athleticism, and I feel like Brooklyn Hicks really does that. I'd even be okay with having Jaden Henley slotted into to the center position. I think that this team can do that. I really do. They have to play in control. They have to play with purpose. They have to play with pace in the half court and not just in the full court. But it's something that I think that obviously me and my little opinion, whatever, they're going to do. The coaches are going to do what they think's best. But that's what I would do right now. Another guy that I was pretty impressed with is Jalen Bedford. He's not. It's been a bit of a disappointing season for Jalen Bedford. To be honest with you, he has struggled defensively at times. His minutes have suffered a bit because of that. But he did finish this game with 11 points. He did hit 2 threes. That kind of really those 2 Jalen Bedford threes were what separated the Rebels from the Falcons in this game. And I felt like, Bedford had a little bit of confidence going into this game, had a little bit of confidence coming out of this game. And so I'm really hoping that Bedford can kind of pick it up and win a couple of these tough Mountain West Conference games for us, because Bedford, he may be a gunner, but I think he's a good player. And then last but not least, obviously, Pop Ndiaye. He finishes with 3 points off of a how did he get those 3 points? Off of free throws. No threes. I'd like to see him take 1 to 2 threes a game. I'd like to see him shoot a little bit more. He had a missed alley-oop, which is what he got the free throws from. Again, the rebounding numbers just aren't great with him. We're not getting much rebounding production from the center position for us, and that's going to be a massive problem going into the rest of conference play. So the coaches are going to have to figure out ways to get our guards in, to get more rebounds, because if Jalen Hill is our leading rebounder every game, we're just going to be in trouble. But the Rebels played pretty good defense. This Air Force team, again, they struggle a lot. But I really feel like this was a game that the Rebels have really struggled in the past. And so winning at Air Force, winning big, covering the KenPom spread, as you can see, we're up to 96 in KenPom, which, we were down as low as 114. And so being able to, use blowouts to kind of, especially the UC Riverside game. UC Riverside's not a bad team, and the Rebels were able to beat them by 13 points. That was a pretty great victory, to be honest with you. And so this San Jose State game that we have coming up on Saturday, it's imperative that we not only win, but we win big, because as I stated in the last show, the Runnin Rebels have a brutal 8-game stretch after that. Boise away, Colorado away, Utah State at home, San Diego State away. They have a little bit of rest with Wyoming at home, but then they have to go New Mexico at home, Utah State away, Reno away, Boise State at home. It's a 9-game stretch that Ken Pom has us losing 8 of. And so it's going to be imperative for the Runnin Rebels to really take advantage of this game on Saturday to build up as much goodwill with the computer metrics as possible. Looking at the Ken Pom efficiency, as you can tell, our offense has shot up. We were not a top 120 offense team before this 3-game stretch. And as especially this 2-game stretch, and as the Runnin Rebels have started to quite literally run, the efficiency has gone up to 90th. Our defense has also gotten better as we've put more skill on the floor and forced more steals. We're still one of the worst offensive rebounding in terms of giving up offensive rebounding percentages. We ranked in the bottom 50 out of 360 teams, or bottom 60 out of 360 teams. So the defensive and offensive rebounding is still a massive issue. Three-pointer, we're not a great three-point shooting team. We're not a great shooting team in general, but where our strength lies is pace, really. And so I think that, you see our average possessions length is about 17.8 seconds. It was, a lot more than that going before this 3-game stretch that we've had. And as we've picked up the pace, I think you've seen a lot of success. And so, the Runnin Rebels have a huge opportunity on Saturday. I don't know that I'm going to have a show before then. I probably won't. So let's preview San Jose State here. Let's look at their team and kind of what Ken Pom sees for this game. San Jose State, the offense is, kind of middle of the road. Their defense is pretty bad. Their offense is ranked a little bit better than UNLV's. A little bit worse than UNLV's. Their best strength is they don't turn the ball over a ton. Again, San Jose State has issues with offensive and defensive rebounding, just like UNLV does. So I don't see that being kind of I don't see that being a massive issue for the Rebels in this game. Now, when the Rebels play Boise State on the road, there it's going to be a big issue. But the Rebels up against this San Jose team really should be able to practice and kind of work on their offensive and defensive rebounding. Their steals, they steal a lot. They get a lot of steals. They force a lot of turnovers. That's a big thing. They get a lot of blocks. They average 7.4 blocks a game. So it's a defense that you can see that, while they may struggle overall numbers wise, they're opportunistic and they can really bite you. If you watched San Jose State play, is rebounding issue due to defense positioning similar to last year? Guards get beat. I think that we just don't have a ton of size on the roster. So I guess what I've seen in my film review is that, Jalen Bedford, bless him, Julian Rishwain, bless him, he's not great at boxing guys out. And Jalen Bedford, same thing, really small. DJ Thomas, really small. Our guards are getting fried on 3-point misses. When the other team misses a 3-pointer, the offensive rebounding rate for that team against the Rebels is massive. And so that's a big issue. And then really, our big men just aren't great rebounders. Rob, I'm trying to remember back to last year if Rob was a great rebounder at the time, but I don't think that he was. He's okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I think this is a team-wide issue, the rebounding problem. It's everybody. It's not just DJ. It's not just the center position. It's not the guards. We really only have one guy who's plus size for his position, and that's probably Jaden Henley. And even he, if he's a 4, is not quite big enough in terms of just weight. And so the rebounding issue really isn't going to go away. I'd say that the best chance the Rebels have to mitigate that is to, you have to look at guys like Jalen Bedford and DJ Thomas and Julian Rishwain and say, you guys have to rebound. It has to be a five. There's not going to be a Mike Moser, a Bryce Masamba, even like a Brandon McCoy. There's not going to be a big man in the middle that's going to scoop up, or a Shakur Houston that's going to scoop up a lot of rebounds. It's got to be everybody. And they're not going to be a top 100 rebounding team. They're just not. The goal should be to get that number from the 300s up to 180, 170. And if they can do that, there's a chance that the rebounding won't kill them. But when we play San Diego State or even Boise State, I think it could be an absolute bloodbath in terms of the boards. I envision San Diego State having 6, 7, 3 or 4 at least opportunities to score every time they have the ball, simply because they're going to crash the board so hard and they have size across their positions. And this probably is the greatest failure of the roster building, that we don't have perimeter players with size on this team. Jaden Henley is really the only one, and he's not a rebounding savant. So the rebounding issue is not going anywhere. It has to be a team focus to try and make it more passable. We're going to look at Band-Aids for fixing rebounding. There's not going to be a miracle pill. And that's just the way it is. The guys have to know it. They have to, we can't get too caught up in individual possessions in terms of rebounding. The other team's going to get some boards. And so, that's kind of the way it goes. Luckily, I think that in this stretch, we've been a little bit better, although early against Air Force was getting multiple chances on 3-point attempts with rebounding. And so I think this San Jose State game at home is pivotal for establishing good momentum going into that Boise State game on the road, to that 2-game road stretch of Boise State and Colorado State. UNLV is going to have to win one of those 2 games. Colorado State's probably the one that they have a better chance of winning. Definitely the one that they have a better chance of winning. I'm not sure that I think that this Rebel team matches up very well with that Boise team, just simply because Tyson Dagenhart it has a lot of size, a lot of experience, and the Rebels, it's been Bear Cherry's been a little disappointing, and I don't see him matching up very well with Dagenhart. I think you're going to see a lot of Pop. I think you're going to see a lot of maybe some Jacob Barnaby minutes again. Barnaby is a good athlete, and so I'm hoping that he can. There's going to be a period of time this year where Barnaby is going to be called upon in a big game to play big minutes, and I guess we're just going to have to see if he can do it. As for the Rob Whaley news, no news is bad news. No, any news we get on Rob Whaley, I expect to be bad. Again, this hasn't been confirmed. This is kind of what I was thinking. So you kind of got it in words for me. But Tyson Dagenhart's going to get Bear Cherry in foul trouble. Pop is probably not physical enough to foul out of too many games. There we go. There's the boys. There's the lads. Pop probably isn't physical enough of a player to get five fouls in a game. I don't expect Pop to foul out of too many games this year. And there just really isn't a ton of options. Bear looks healthier, I'll say that. But if this team is going to compete in the Mountain West, it's going to be because Bear's going to have to be better than he is right now in terms of defense and just the little things. So it's just imperative that we use this time and this 3-game stretch. The Runnin Rebels. I'm going to jinx them a little bit. They should be 3-0. They should beat San Jose State. Now, could they lose to San Jose State? Absolutely. Especially at the Thomas and Mack, which, isn't as much of a home court advantage really at all. Honestly, I over the last 10 years, I don't think that I think we've actually probably been a better team on the road than we have been at home. And so, could the Runnin Rebels lose to San Jose State? Absolutely. Do I think that they will win one of the Colorado State and Boise games? I actually do. I think this team has a little bit of juice behind them, and I think DJ's playing better now. You're going to see a vintage DJ game. I think they'll win the Colorado State game if I had to pick between the two, but you never know. So that is kind of where we are for Runnin Rebel Hoops right now. I've decided to be positive as much as I can about this team, just because, we're going to have clarity at the end of the year regardless about the direction of the program. And so, we only get one season a year. We only get to see our team, our home team play one game or one season of games a year. And so I'm just going to be supportive of them. I'm going to try really hard to stay positive. Now, if we go on some 7-game losing streak, you might see some negativity out of me. But I'm really proud of the guys right now. This is what they should be doing. You don't get extra credit for winning games that you should win. I think that the road dynamic, Reno Hater, I think that the road dynamic, and I'll read, so this is from Reno Hater. Everybody make sure you're following him. He says, I don't have faith in them winning a big road game until I see them do it. Feels like we don't have that alpha who will go crazy and take over a game besides DJ. I think that the Dayton game showed me that the Rebels can win big games on the road. And I do expect basically all of our biggest victories this year to be on the road. I think smaller venues with bigger crowds, players just kind of play better in them pretty often. And if you're a talented team, you can really get a lot out of crowd energy. And so I actually think we're going to shock some people. Now, do I expect us to win at the Pit in New Mexico? Absolutely. The Rebels do not lose at the Pit. Thomas and Mac South. Now, could they lose this year, and could I be jinxing them? Absolutely. New Mexico is a very good team, and I don't mean to be disrespectful of them. But I feel like we can win at the Pit because we just have been winning at the Pit. It's just something we've been doing as a program over the last 7 or 8 years. Could we win at New Mexico? Yes. Could we win at Boise State? Yes. The past 2 teams, that team last year, the Runnin Rebels last year was better. They were a better team on the road than they were at home. And I think if you look at Kevin Kruger in general as a coach over his 4-year tenure, I think he's been better as a coach on the road than he's been at home. You look at a lot of their best wins. What is their best home win of the Kevin Kruger era? It's probably the San Diego State game last year. But we won at Boise last year. That was a great win. Nobody won at Boise last year. A couple of teams did, but nobody really won at Boise last year. And so I have more confidence in us as a road team than I do as a home team. Even if you look at our best win last year was the Creighton game. That wasn't at home. That was a neutral site court. I think that I think the road is the way to go. Bryce Hamilton, the senior year, our best win that year was probably at Colorado State. Our best win the second year when we had that switch team, with Elijah Harkless, our best win was probably at New Mexico. Our best wins are consistently road games. So I think that, home and away, I don't think it really matters for this Runnin' Rebel team. And I think they're going to surprise some people. So that is basically all I had for basketball right now. That New Mexico, that's that San Jose State team. I'll give you a couple players to look out for as we close this out. Their best player is probably Josh Uduje. If you recognize that name, it's because he played for Utah State. He's a really solid player, 6'5", kind of guard wing. He's the guy you're going to want to look out for. They also have a guy named Will McClendon, who's really solid player, 6'3" guard, and Sadrian Hall. So another kind of perimeter player. Their big guy down low, Robert Viola, is pretty good. And Donovan Yap, an ex-Runnin' Rebel, is on that San Jose State team. So watch out for him. I think this team can win big games because we have good three-point shooting. Jalen Bedford's a good three-point shooter. DJ's a good three-point shooter. Julian Rishwain's a good three-point shooter. Even Jaden Henley, I think, is an okay three-point shooter. So that's why this team can win. Let's talk some football. I wanted to make sure that I did basketball first because, it is basketball season. We saw Boise State lose to Penn State in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. We're not long for, our relationship as a conference mate with Boise State is not long for this earth. I thought Boise State, I'll give my quick thoughts on that game, I guess. I thought Boise State and Penn State, the score was about right. I thought both teams made some mistakes. You saw Penn State with some really weird play calling. And you saw Boise State with some missed opportunities as well. A couple of missed calls that went against Boise State's way. Boise State just wasn't in their league talent wise. Gentee was great, but he wasn't enough to beat a Big Ten team playing in the college football playoff. or a top 5, top 6 kind of talent level team that Penn State is. Penn State, I was pretty confident was going to win that game simply because, say what you want about James Franklin, say what you want about Ohio State beating Penn State consistently, Oregon, Michigan beating Penn State consistently. Penn State does not lose to teams that have less talent than they do. And they lose to teams that have better talent than they do, but they do not lose to teams that have worse talent than they do. And Penn State was more talented than Boise State, and so Penn State was going to win. And that was basically how it played out to me. So credit to Boise State. Solid season. They did not embarrass themselves by any means in the Fiesta Bowl. And I'm excited to see a Boise State program without the likes of Ashton Jeanty, without Dirk Cutter, their famed offensive coordinator who came back for this year only. I think that Boise State will be vulnerable in the Mountain West next year, and that UNLV football under Dan Mullen will have a pretty good chance at dethroning them. But, we got a long way till then, and we'll get there when we get there. As for UNLV football news, the biggest piece of news that we have is Cam Friel. Now, I have made some Cam Friel jokes in my time on UNLV Twitter. I have. Say what you want about Cam Friel. He, there wasn't really a ton of choices for him to transfer to, but Cam Friel did have opportunities to go to other programs, to play in other positions, to be backup quarterbacks. And I think Cam Friel just kind of looked around and he said, I'm Vegas. I'm here. I've been with this program from the beginning, and I'm going to be kind of a reliable backbone player in the football program. And because, if you're wondering how he has an extra year of eligibility, this is not a COVID year, but Cam Friel apparently got a red shirt for one of his years where he played in less than 4 games. And so he will get a 5th year senior season. I think that that's where college football should go. You should have 5 years to play 5 years, 5 years to play 5 years of college football. Every player should get 5 years. I guess you could have 1 medical redshirt year, but beyond that, you should not be able to get a medical redshirt year. In fact, I wouldn't be completely opposed to just having 5 years and that's it. That's all you get. Unless you have 2 years out with injury, I suppose, then I guess you could maybe get a medical redshirt year. But if you only have 1, I wouldn't like that. So Cam Friel comes back. What does this mean for the football team and the football program? He's not the only person. There were some other names of players that came back. Nobody major yet, but the transfer portal, while it is closed technically, I believe that, we heard the Jacob DeJesus news. We heard the Casey Kane news. I was pretty bummed about Casey Kane going in the transfer portal, even though, you don't really know why a kid is going in the transfer portal. They have their own reasons. There could be, and I'm not saying this specifically about, any player specifically on the Rebels, but sometimes there's just not space on a roster for a player. And so Cam Friel, by all accounts, from everything that I have heard about Cam Friel as a player, from everything that I've seen with him on the field, just is a good dude, like lives and breathes football. He's kind of a more, he does have a little bit of legs, but I think he's a bit more of a pocket passer quarterback, though I don't want to denigrate his ability to run as well. A little slower, but a little big. He got some size to him. He's not skinny by any means. And yeah, I think Reno Hader puts it really well here. Good guy, leader in the locker room, and returning as a backup quarterback. I think Anthony Colandrea is pretty clearly going to be the starting quarterback for UNLV football next year. Dan Mullen as the quarterback whisperer. I have all the faith in him to get the most out of Colandrea as a player. But if you had to have a backup quarterback in college football, I don't think that you would pick a guy, at least in terms of the Rebels. I don't think you'd want anybody before Cam Friel for this team next year. Obviously, everybody would love to have 5-star players as your backup quarterbacks, but that's just not how that goes. And so he's a leader in the locker room. He will bring continuity and established identity to this football team. And I think he'll be able to battle Colandrea a little bit for that starting role. Obviously, I'd like to see Colandrea get the starting role, but it's good for a football team to have a competition in between its players. And I think Cam Friel will do that. So, and this is another great point that Reno Hader brings up. Yes, you get 30 days after a coaching change to hit the portal. I don't think we're at 30 days. It'll probably, I think we have another week or so, or maybe 4 days. So I think we can still have players enter the transfer portal because it has not been a month since Barry Odom has finished his time as the UNLV football coach. We've seen some players take visits to Purdue that Tony Grimes took a visit to Purdue. A BYU target that I really like, Crew Wakely, also took a visit to Purdue. I hope that UNLV can land him. I think he'd be an outstanding player. But we have guys like Marcel McDuffie coming back and a lot of great players. So Cam Friel coming back, what does that signal to me? And especially, when I last episode was talking about some of the continuity with the staff, guys like Hunky Cooper, Del Webb. There's a lot of continuity. There's some building blocks that were part of the Barry Odom staff, some parts of the Barry Odom staff that were kind of predated Barry Odom. There are some players and personnel that predated Barry Odom coming to Las Vegas that remain a part of UNLV football. And I hope that our administration is doing everything they can to take care of these guys that have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into this program. Guys like Hunky Cooper, guys like Del Webb. I think that they're loyal guys that are good, that want to be in Vegas. And I'm happy and proud that they're staying in Vegas. So really good times for UNLV football. Hopefully we'll get some more transfer portal news. I will keep you updated as I get it. Expect some film review stuff to be coming out on Colin Drea in the near future, probably before I take the bar. I will warn everybody that once I head into bar prep mode, I'm graduating law school this year. I will warn everybody that I will be going dark during bar prep season. So I will not be doing podcasts. That's going to be in May, though. That'll be after basketball season ended and before football season really kicks into gear, hopefully after the spring game too. So lots of stuff going on. Excited for the Runnin Rebels stretch that we have ahead. I appreciate you guys all listening. We have more than 100 people here, on New Year's Day. So I'm just grateful that we have people, to check out the podcast. Please share it with your friends. Please retweet it when you see it. I love this podcast. Hopefully the new year brings a great year for UNLV sports and a great year for the Let's Run podcast. Turned 29 this year. So growing up, I feel like I'm getting older. I feel significantly older than the players for the first time. And that's kind of a weird sensation as well. But I appreciate you guys. Please stay safe. Please get everything, all the goals that you have for this year, go get them done. Yeah. We'll save that for when it comes. Right after the basketball, I'll read it. Right after the basketball search ends. Good timing. We'll save that for when it happens, or if it happens. Come on, Kevin Kruger. I want to believe in you. I want to believe in you, dude. So you guys have a great night, and let's run.